Hello, everyone, and welcome to Montessori 101, a live show from Child of the Redwoods, all about the magic of Montessori. We believe that every child deserves a Montessori education. I'm Aubrey Hargis.
I'm David Hargis. So whether you're watching us live or watching the replay, or maybe you're listening to the podcast, doesn't matter. We're just happy you're with us. And if you want to learn more about our work, head over to our website, childoftheredwoods.com, if you haven't done that already. And we have all kinds of free resources there. Okay, today we're talking about outdoor play, or more specifically, why it's important to go outside and how you can beat the elements if you need to, which is actually a really good topic for today. Here we are in San Francisco Bay, and we're having yet another torrential rainstorm.
Yes, a Pineapple Express,
Pineapple
as it
Express,
is
yes.
called.
Yeah, and it's a ton of snow for those up in the mountains, and here for us along the coast, a lot of flooding and a lot of damage. So it's kind of tricky. But usually we're pretty lucky here in the Bay. The weather's very mild. It can get chilly, but it's basically sunny all the time. But that's not always been the case. We've lived in places. We grew up in Texas. We lived in Washington D.C. The weather can be really varied. It can be snow. It can be very, very hot, and it can make it a little difficult to take the little ones out. But you can do it. You can learn to accommodate those conditions with a little work, and it's worth it. So let's talk. We want to talk about why it's so worth it.
Yeah. So literally, as David and I were preparing for this little live, we were getting reports on our phones about 70 miles per hour winds outside. And we're looking out there and we're thinking, I don't know, does it feel like a good day to go outside? But and the truth is, there are lots of things we can do as Montessori parents to make it easier for ourselves to get motivated to take our kids outside. So we're going to give you lots of tips in this little episode.
That's right.
But we're going to start with an example of a Montessori parent who does take this approach of going outside in all weather. And I want to introduce you to her family, and we'll kind of give you a little overview of what their day is like, a day in the life of a Montessori family. So our member spotlight is on Jesus, and Jesus is a mom of one who is living in the United States. She's a member or an alum of our Homeschool of the Redwoods primary program. And she joined that, she told us, in part because she was really looking for a more solid Montessori community to share the homeschool journey with.
Mm-hmm.
She describes herself or themselves as being an Asian American family, and that their culture is based in both Korea, China, and America. So it's a multicultural background, which is a real gift for children.
Definitely.
Yeah. We have a lot of multilingual families who are joining our courses.
Absolutely.
Because we offer global support to people.
Montessori is a worldwide reach.
Yes. And she wanted her children to grow up with that open-minded, worldview of really feeling like they are a citizen of the world, which is so aligned with the Montessori method.
Totally.
So Jesus tells us that as a first-time mom, this is a transformation story that I think is really amazing. She says that she wanted to give the best to her baby. So she started to research Montessori. She, like almost all first-time parents, don't really know what they're in for. You kind of just start your research. And lo and behold, she discovered Montessori. And she read The Absorbent Mind, which is an amazing accomplishment because it's very hefty work by Maria Montessori. And after reading that book, it just transformed her whole mindset. She knew that Montessori was the approach she wanted to take for her own child. And she says, in her words, all the clouds and uncertainty just dissolved away. She knew that this was the path. She said that at that point, instead of looking for picture-worthy opportunities to do activities with her child, that might look good on, in a picture. Instead, she just shut down her screen and she started really focusing on following her child. This is what Montessori can do for us. She said that the Montessori mindset didn't only help her child, she also felt like it made a personal transformation in herself. She said that she tended during that before Montessori time to look and see what other parents were
Mhm.
doing, especially on social media, in the internet.
Mhm.
And then after learning about the Montessori method and how you can follow your child and really focus on their needs, she started tuning in more to her own instincts as a
Yeah,
parent. And she started learning more about herself and following herself,
that's
more than
great.
following anyone else. And so she said,
That's it.
she said, and I'll quote this, so cool. She said, I started to study Montessori for my son, but now I figured that choosing Montessori actually changed me. So
Wow.
I know
What a
I hear
testimonial.
this kind of story a lot though in our community,
Yes.
of parents discovering that Montessori actually you start to feel a little guilty about it in some way. You're wondering like, who am I really doing this for? Is it actually for my child or is it for me because I'm receiving so many benefits from it?
Yeah, but I mean, that's what makes it it's a symbiotic relationship.
Yes.
That's why we say it's a journey you take with your child because you're going through this together and you're transformed. It's almost religious. It's almost something like that. Yeah. So such an amazing story. And I'm going to read a little bit more about her. So Jesus
Yeah.
describes a very intentional rhythm to her
Yeah,
day.
let's do this day in the life.
Yeah, let's do a
So
day in the life.
imagine you're peeking into Jesus' home during this time that she happened to submit the survey. And we know schedules change all the time, but this is a little snapshot. So kind of sit back and just listen,
That's
kind of
right.
imagine what it's like
Yeah,
in Jesus'
maybe in your
family.
own life you've had a similar experience. She says, "We start our day around 7:30, and after breakfast, we like to go outside.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's as simple as taking a slow stroll around the neighborhood. Sometimes my son's having an adventurous moment in the backyard and playground.
Mm-hmm.
After mornings, we come back around 10:30 and make a snack together. He loves doing kitchen work by himself." And remember, he's about 20 months when this was written.
Mm-hmm.
Recently, he cut his favorite strawberries and feeds himself. After snack, I prepare lunch. Sometimes I do it really quickly, like heating up prepared food, but I try to let him be involved as much as I can, such as chopping vegetables with his crinkle cutter. Gosh, I tell you, these, I love reading these.
Is it sparking memories?
Oh boy, our little ones are not so little anymore, at least physically. Maybe I'm not sure about the maturity part quite there. It takes a long time to grow up. Trust me, but I certainly remember being those toddler years or those little years when they would really, really want to take the little cutters and work through those things. Boy, it just really takes me back. It's also super Montessori, right? Like this idea of helping in the kitchen and using like real knives or safer versions of them, if depending on the age of the child, and little cutters and things. We had so many of those, like cookie cutter styles. And
Yeah.
why is that? What is it about this kind of work that's so Montessori?
Well, it falls into the practical life category, So in Montessori, we want our children to learn very practical skills, and cooking just happens to be something that everyone does every day, and cleaning too. We cook in our homes, we clean. So there are lots of opportunities for us to introduce these little practical skills to
Mhm.
our children. And food, as anyone who has a toddler knows, is very interesting to children, right?
And
There's
adults, I'll say,
Yes, adults too. So, anytime you're going to be dealing with food, there is going to be an opportunity to allow your child to participate in
yeah.
that preparation. It just does so many things for them, both cognitively, thinking about the procedure of how to prepare something from beginning to end, washing something, and
Mhm.
then just you can think of all the little steps involved and just chopping yourself some little strawberries for lunch.
Yeah,
Maybe at this age, I would expect that probably Jesus goes and takes the strawberries to the sink and then allows her toddler to climb up on a little stool and participate in the washing of them. And then they kind of dry them and take them back. Maybe she prepares them in some way for chopping first. It's probably what I would do if I were um, giving
yeah,
strawberries to a toddler. I would like chop off the ends
yeah.
so that it's prepared, and then I would give them little strawberries for them to cut with a little cutter.
That's right.
So you kind of however old your child is, you can do a little work for them. But you want to support them in their quest to independence. And the end goal is for them to be able to walk in the kitchen and think, hey, I'd like some strawberries for
That's right.
snack, or I want to serve my mom or dad some strawberries for
That's right.
snack, and to know exactly what to do, the whole procedure from the washing to the cutting to what plate to put them on, to how to decorate the plate so that it looks
Yeah.
pretty and cute, maybe a little dollop of yogurt in the middle. I know you're remembering these snacks our children served you, I'm sure.
Of course.
But it is an essential part of being a Montessori family, embracing this quest for independence.
Because they would be doing similar things in a classroom if they were in just a traditional Montessori school, but now we get the added benefit of really making a part of the actual everyday life that is the joy of homeschooling. So really family centric. So yeah, it does. And actually it is true. If any of you are skeptical, can your child learn to feed themselves? It is true. They can. Our kids certainly did, because we use this method. Now, do they always get everything right? No, certainly not.
No.
But then again, I can't say that I'm the one to always wash my own dishes immediately after using them. So adults can also, be guilty of some of these things. The fact is, though, that our kids are at a point where when they're hungry, they know how to go feed themselves in healthy ways. They'll eat carrots, or they'll, again, not always. Let's not let's not be unrealistic, but they've learned better than maybe in other scenarios. And it starts with this very, very young experience. What you teach them, they begin to integrate into their everyday life. So it really will make a difference.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's continue on a little bit. She says that after lunch, my son likes to read a book and snuggle.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm lucky enough, he takes a nap. After his nap, we usually do house chores such as laundry, cleaning the floor, wiping the windows, etc. Since he's fully charged after a nap, he's restored, walking around the house and doing hands-on practical life is a win-win for us. Using off that, got to burn off all that saved up energy from the nap.
Yeah.
After chores, we get ready for dinner as a family. Since my husband is working from home, he always leads getting the dinner ready. Again, the son loves helping the husband, such as by pouring spices, adding vegetables to the pot, etc. And after dinner, they call her parents in South Korea via video chat, and he can still strengthen the bond with his grandparents, even though they're very far away.
Mm-hmm.
Now we take him, put him in the bath after the video chat, and after the bath, we go to his room. They have reading time, and then he goes to bed. Yep. That video chat piece is very relatable. So we, our kids were pretty little when we moved away. It's not as far as South Korea as to America, but Texas, where we were from, to Virginia, or now to San Francisco, is very far. It's many, many, many hours, and it's difficult. And we are big fans of using video chatting tools because it helps. It helps kind of dissolve some of the barrier. And I think during the pandemic, a lot of people realize that it doesn't replace in any way an actual visit with your family. You need those moments, but it can help. However, I know that a lot of parents, Montessori parents and others, get worried about screen time. And, is this the kind of thing you should worry about with a toddler and screen time?
Yeah, people do worry about it.
Yeah.
You asked if they should worry about it.
Yeah, right.
So it's a complicated answer.
They do worry, but
yeah, they do worry. So, in my experience, most Montessori parents worry about screen time. And there is some validity to it. If you look at the research, you find that if children are, there's this this balance equation, right? And it says like, I don't know what it's called. It's been too long since I've been in school. But basically, like the higher the viewing of screen time goes up, the lower the outside activity decreases. Right?
I mean, it makes sense. There's only
like
so much time in the day,
relationship
right?
there.
Yeah.
So, so they find that families, whose children just watch lots and lots of TV and take in lots of screen time, have less time to play outdoors. Now, we live in a city and in a time period where there aren't a lot of children playing around outdoors. It's very hard for parents, at least in where we live, and in many parents in other cities as well. And in this climate of where we kind of are like over supervising our children. And there's a free range movement, but most of us still are kind of stuck in this
Yeah, or the broader
quandary.
society is not
Yeah,
necessarily in tune with that.
that's
They
right.
get uptight when they see your
So
kids
it's
outside.
it's much harder for us than it was for our grandparents to shoo the kids outside and let them go play. Not all of us live in, some of us live in apartments where there is no backyard and the playground is several blocks away. We may not feel like it's necessarily safe to send the kids out into the
Yeah,
streets alone. That's certainly an issue that we've had here living in the city. We've lived in several
definitely.
cities. May not be a problem that you have in a suburban neighborhood
Yeah, it
that
wasn't
is
something I
slower, right?
experienced
Or
as a
a
kid growing up
rural
in the
environment.
rural.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So there's a lot, so there's kind of a lot going on. Also, families are further and further from their family support.
that's
We
right.
are moving around the globe more and more than humans ever have been. So it's much more likely that a family might end up displaced far away from their external support family
Yeah.
members. So what is a parent who doesn't have the benefit of being able to send the kids out into a safe environment to play, or have a family member come and take the kids for a little bit, or send them off to aunt's house, or that kind of extra support?
Yeah.
Screen time is what most of us use, if we don't have other kinds of resources. Perhaps you have a nanny or a babysitter that comes over a lot, but I'm going to say most
Most people
parents,
don't.
most people do
Yeah.
not. Okay, so I think that can be really harmful to pin screen time, and as a parent guilt
Well, media
hammer,
really
right?
helps too. Like they really
Yes.
hammer down the idea of how harmful screen time is.
Yeah. So that being said, like there are some problems with too much screen time. Children, obesity tends to go up. That's
Yeah.
statistical. Outside time tends to go down. Children aren't as physically active. But
Yeah.
even the most strict guidelines that are out there make exceptions for video chatting with family members, because being social and being able to see the face of someone that you love, or that you're trying to learn how
Yep.
to love, who lives very far away from you, is crucial. And so I always encourage, I tell all our parents, like, don't even think of it as screen time. Like, don't think of it as screen time. It's still
Yeah.
family time, even though it's on a screen. It doesn't really count, towards screen time.
Well, and I would say, in my own experience, it means so much to the others on life. You have elderly parents who have this. This is their only chance to interact on a regular basis with their grandchildren. Don't deny them. It's so valuable to them, and it's such
Yeah.
a good way
It
to
doesn't have to
strengthen
be
that
for
bond.
hours and hours,
No, and in fact,
just
your child probably will not want to do it for hours and hours, because at the end of the day, it's about intent. I mean,
yeah.
engaging with somebody over a video call requires you to actually engage. It's very different than sitting there and kind of mindlessly staring at endless YouTube videos and unboxing stuff or whatever you're watching nowadays. So, like, one is very, very passive and has no nutritional value, and the other is very interactive and high nutrition. And because of that, your attention is going to be shorter, because it's going to take a lot more work. And so you're not don't be afraid.
Yeah,
Don't
so
be afraid
screen
of this.
time can be a part of a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, and don't be
Yeah.
afraid in general of screens. It's all about intention. We've talked about this before, but at the end of the day, if you're using the screen time, if your intent is, do you think that the child is going to learn something from the app or the video? That's not going to happen. It's going to happen very, very small quantities. Set your intention correctly. If you have the pure intention, good intention, and the purpose of the media itself is good, the intention is good, then your outcomes are going to be okay.
All right. So Jesus actually takes this approach very seriously.
Yeah.
She counterbalances that screen time, even though it's healthy screen time, with extra outside time. So she tells us, since her child turned 1 last summer, remember this is a snapshot in time, she says his favorite thing to do during the day is to go outside no matter the weather. She says, I'm always supportive of his outside adventures. And there's a lot that we can do to be supportive. She says the best thing about being outdoors with him is that we're able to cherish the changes of the season via all of our senses. She says that sometimes they just sit on the grass, soaking up the sun. Sometimes they rake the leaves in the fall. And when it's Christmas time, they might go out and gather pine cones. So just really taking in all that the seasons have to offer.
Yeah.
And just appreciating that sensory play that is just so natural to the outdoors. She says that her son especially loves being helpful when her husband's out, like doing the yard work, raking the leaves, that sort of stuff. Something that toddlers, I find can be quite, I don't know if they're actually helpful outside in the yard work way, but they certainly do enjoy participating in it. And so there are lots of opportunities that just exist outdoors where we can invite that purposeful work.
Yep. Yeah, boy, this just makes my heart leap for joy to hear this. It's so wonderful. For so many of us in the modern world, here in the U.S., for example, outdoor life can be very remote. We spend endless hours in buildings, like we're shuttling from one building to another.
That's right.
I wake up in a building called my house, and then I get in a little rolling building called a car or a bus, and then I get out of that and I get into another. It's like one box to the next, and it's just not healthy. Right? We are natural creatures. We lived for millions and millions and millions of years before we ever invented something like what we have right now, right? It is within us. We thrive when we interact with nature. Many cultures recognize. In fact, the Japanese even have this concept called shirin-yoku, which literally just means forest bath. And the idea is that you go out and you are with the trees, sometimes called tree bathing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about just being in nature. It's restorative to the mind, to the mental and emotional well-being. And it's scientifically true. Like they've actually been able to measure the effect that interacting with nature has on humans. And they've done countless experiments about what happens to people when they are and are not connected with nature.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always the same results. Nature always has a tremendous impact. So it's hard. I know that. I definitely know that it can sometimes be hard to make outdoor life a part of your everyday experience, but it's really, really vital. And the fact is you can make that happen with a little bit of intentionality. The weather doesn't always cooperate. We know that we're experiencing it right now. But, if you have a plan, an intent, and the right strategies, you can still bring it together. So let's talk a little bit about some of the things you can do to make outdoor life a part of your everyday existence, or as much as you can, regardless of where you might live on the earth and what kind of weather changes and seasonal changes you might experience.
So we have some tips for you. So just think about these from the point of view of a Montessori parent, how we can involve our children in the preparation of this, how you can make going outside almost every day of the year really, really accessible to them. Okay.
Yep.
So first off, we want to say that it's really important to play it safe. If, for example, the other day we were going out and we happened to have 70-mile-per-hour winds when we were at the park, and we started noticing these trees whipping around us as we were taking our nice walk. David and I looked at each other and we're like, this doesn't seem safe. We need to get in a clearing right now because so many trees are down, so many branches were flying down.
And people have been seriously hurt
and
recently.
Just the prior week, we knew that someone had a fatal accident in the park because a tree a giant branch had fallen. So, anyway, so it's important, whatever that looks like for you here in San Francisco, it might be super high winds. But for you, it might be a hurricane, or it might be a tornado weather. It might be lightning storms. Okay. Don't go swimming during a lightning storm, just like use your common sense, with this going outside every day. Another issue we have here in California is that people here aren't used to above 100-degree temperatures.
That's right.
And some families have gotten into fatal trouble, going out and taking an enormous hike, not really understanding that being out in 100-degree weather can cause heat stroke really quickly.
Yeah, we having grown up in Texas, we know the danger of high heat. But like Aubrey said, I mean, if you've grown up here in the Bay or this part of, in a more temperate climates, you just like think, oh, it's just very, very hot. It's not just very, very hot.
Yeah.
It's very, very dangerous if you
Yeah.
don't respect it. In the same way that cold can be really deadly. So
Yeah.
play it safe.
So play it safe. And what I recommend with this is that you actually just do a little research about the area where you really are living and really get to know. And I know that sometimes it sounds scary to do research on weather, dangerous weather events, but actually the psychologically, that what they have found is that it's actually really helpful to us. So if you're afraid of flying on flying on planes, you're afraid of flying, actually look up how airplanes work. If you're afraid of tornadoes, actually look up how they work and their real stats and how to keep yourself safe, in that kind of weather. But if you have that feeling in your gut that you look out the window and you think, it's just not safe to go out today, don't feel like you have to. Okay. But I do recommend that you go and sit next to a window or go and watch what's happening outside. I have vivid memories of going out during thunderstorms when I was a little girl. We had a porch, and every time there was a thunderstorm, my parents would drag us out to the bench outside on our front porch, and we would just look at the thunderstorm and just like be outside without actually being outside in the storm.
Yeah, because you're in a sheltered area.
Yeah, be outside a Safeway. And something that our children really love to do during inclement weather that is not safe, or just too much, is we will like to go and open our front door and just like stand, in the front area, and just like feel that the sheeting rain, or see if you can catch a little bit of hail if you stick your hand outside of the window. Last time it was hailing, our youngest still, like, first thing he wanted to do was open his window and then stick his hand out, see if he could catch a little bit of hail. So even, if the weather isn't great enough for you to go and be out in it, see if you can let your child experience it some way. Or or draw their attention to it. Look at these winds. Can you hear the howling? Can you what do you see out there? Right. So that's a great way to grow up. So, but it's also important to dress appropriately. If the weather is, even if the weather is, if it's just raining, it's probably fine. If it's hailing a little bit, even, there are things that you can do to protect yourselves, so that the hail isn't hurting your head. So, dressing appropriate is also important.
Yeah, absolutely. So, layers, bring that umbrella, bring your, galoshes, whatever it is that you might need. Dress lightly if it's going to be really warm. So just sort of play it safe. This actually can be a lot of fun for kids, especially little ones, dressing and learning to get dressed and hanging up clothes and folding clothes and put them in. It's actually a part of the practical life curriculum for little ones. And so it actually is a perfect way to incorporate both practical life and smart weather play together. So play it safe and then be prepared with your accoutrement.
Something that Montessori families specifically can do for that is we can give our children materials to teach them the nomenclature of those weather items that they would be using. So, if your children need to know what these things that you put on your hand are, what are the difference? Like, these are mittens and these are gloves, and this is how they're different. These are their names. Also, when David talked about layering, something that we have learned is that wool can be really great, or a poly type of surface for wicking away the sweat, so every time our kids go out and it's super cold and it's super rainy, we always make sure that they are layering themselves properly. And I will tell you, it's really hard for children to learn how to layer themselves appropriately. So if you are really explicit with your education, and you allow them to practice putting on these layers when you're inside, it can help a lot. When they're little, you'd be like, let's pretend like we are going to the beach today. What would we wear? Or let's pretend like it's raining and it's super cold and we're going to go on our hike. What do we need? What can we gather? And actually put down a rug or put down a suitcase, or, whatever is fun for you, and have your children go on a little scavenger hunt to find the appropriate clothes that go with it. Sometimes what we do in our constellation units, we actually provide a little checklist of clothes.
Yeah, that's right.
So anyway, those are some ideas. The last one is the launch pad. Do you remember our launch pad for cold weather when our kids were little?
Back when we lived in Virginia.
Yes, mostly.
Was it
in Texas too? Yeah.
Was it the one that it was like a small sort of frame and it had hooks by the door.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then a little sort of a box at the bottom for the boots or
Right.
galoshes. Yeah,
Right. So
child sized.
yes.
Yeah.
So what we had bought was dress up, a dress up area piece of furniture. Bought it on sale, but it was great because we put it by our front door, and that way, that is where all of the appropriate weather
Hmm.
stuff
Yeah,
stayed,
yeah,
right? Like it didn't stay in their drawers. It stayed, in the area where they would like grab it and then go. So
yeah,
it could just be something as simple as a basket on the floor,
yeah.
but some place where your child doesn't have to go running all over hunting for that lost boot. It
Right.
belongs in a
In
space.
fact, we still use a launch pad concept with our
Mhm.
shoes because
We do.
here, we're close to the beach, and so there's sand, and then hiking, it's muddy, and sometimes you just need something light to wear. So you actually have a variety of kinds of shoes with this kind of environment, and it's easy to get lost. So we have a great big basket out front, and we just try and put all of our shoes in there and pick out what we want, and it really helps,
Yes.
even with the adults in this house.
And you know what else helps next to that shoe basket is a big bottle of sunscreen or sunblock.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So
that's
that is
right.
a trick that we learned fairly recently that I wish I'd been using for a long time. Is one trick is there's two places where well, actually three places where
Mm.
sunblock goes in our house. I wonder if David can name them.
The car,
The car, always.
the the medicine cabinet.
Yes, like on the sink, on the counter where it's visible.
Yeah.
Where you're looking in the mirror, you wash your face, you brush your teeth or whatever, and then lo and behold, there is your big thing of sunscreen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like so accessible.
I don't know. The
And what else?
backpack, a backpack
By the door.
by the door.
Yeah,
Great.
by the door, by that shoe basket. So you put on your shoes and then you look and you're like, oh yeah, I didn't put on my sunscreen. Better put it on now.
All I
So
know is
there's-
that I've never known there were so many forms of sunscreen in my life until
until you met me.
yes.
I know. So
And they keep coming up with new kinds.
yes. So my philosophy is if there are three opportunities for you to put your own sunscreen on before mom has to enforce it, right? Like you could do it yourself while you're getting ready to go and you're brushing your teeth. If you don't do it then, the next opportunity is while you're putting on your shoes and heading out the door. And the third opportunity is just before you get out of the car. Like you get out of the car and it's like, if you haven't done it with those other two
final chance.
the last one is like, mom says, I'm sorry, but there's no other mirrors here. We got to just cover you, right?
It's just important to do.
Yeah.
Say that's good.
Yes. All right. And then talk it up.
Yeah, that's right. So, get the kids ready. Think about playing a game. We've talked about some of these already, practicing getting dressed. But if you have a linear calendar or some other form of calendaring that you're using with your child, which you should be doing, it's really, really fun. And it's also another great Montessori activity is working with a calendar. Mark down days that you're going to be outside or you're going to do special things outside. So if there's a beach day or a hiking day or a swimming day or a snow day or whatever coming up, put that down on your calendar and then talk about it and get ready for it. Maybe pack the bag for it. Talk about why you're excited for it. Share that enthusiasm. It'll be contagious. Oh, I can't wait to go build a snow fort. I can't wait to go find shells in the sand. I can't wait to see what color the leaves are today.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is that comes to your mind, just openly dialogue. That will get them enthused about this experience and sets the right mindset.
Yes, and fantasize about it. A technique of mine is I like to go to that window, back to the window, and look outside, whoosh open the curtains and look outside and say, oh, come here, look, come look. Ooh, what do you see? Ooh, it's kind of cloudy out there. Ooh, we're going to go to the park today. What do you think it's going to be like at the park? Oh, it's going to be this playground. Oh, I can't wait. Do you remember when we went to that playground?
Yeah.
Oh, is that the playground with the slide that's kind of curvy? No, it's the playground with the slide that's straight and it has the trees next to the creek. Like, really get into that description of the place where you're going to go and the things you're going to do. And David and I will do this together too. We'll sit on the couch. We'll bring the kids and we'll be like, we're going to go to this place. And, we'll actually have our computers open and we'll read like, this is what the county says about this special park. And I wonder if we'll see any of these creatures. Like we really ham it up. Yeah, we get excited about it. And then our kids get all excited about it too.
Now, I will say that as they get older,
yeah,
their enthusiasm
is different.
Changes. But I will also say that whatever fake resistance they put up while you're trying to tell them about how fun this park or whatever is going to
Hmm.
be immediately melts once they get there.
Yeah,
And
we have a
all that
yeah.
preparation and all that sort of thinking, it's seeping in. I mean, I know most of you guys will have younger kids, but they will grow up eventually. And it sometimes can be frustrating and you might lose sight, like, well, are they actually listening? They're always listening,
Yeah.
just like they are when they're 20 months old. They're still listening to you when they get older. Just express it differently. So make this a part of your everyday practice.
Hmm.
Now, when your kids are little, continue that practice on. It will pay dividends. I promise.
Yeah, it will. Um, for the little ones, especially, I would say that for most children, including ours, and this is not true for every single child, but for most
No.
children, if you make a habit of going outside regularly, talking up how wonderful it is to be in the woods or out on your trails or in your park or on the beach, wherever it is for you, if you make that part of like what your family likes to do, like our family likes to be outside, it's just what we like to do, then it's just going to be something your children expect. And
Yeah.
what we find is that 99.5% out of the time, our children will, like, as soon as they get out of the car and they're off on the trail or they're out in nature, like their bad mood,
Whatever
it's gone.
state of mind they might have been in
Yeah, and they're like
beforehand.
happy and they're running around, they're gathering their sticks. It just instantly changes their mood, no matter what kind of mood they were like at home. Now, there's really one instance that this doesn't work, and if it's when they're sick.
Yeah.
Like if they are sick, if we take them outside and they're like persistently in a bad mood the whole time while we're outdoors enjoying nature, we know that they're sick. Like,
Yep.
that's how we know. But otherwise, like it is just it's a kind of, it's like nature medicine, right? For all the
Exactly.
bad moods. So
Yeah, and I think related to that is the underlying message always in Montessori, which is follow the child. Um, you know, Follow the child doesn't mean that if your child is sort of giving you the grumpy face or whatever about, I don't want to put on my shoes, I'm not going
mhm.
outside. It doesn't mean that that's actually what they want.
Right. Or if you ask your child, like, do you want to go outside today or do you not want to go outside today? And they might say, no, I
Mm.
don't. I'm playing with my Legos. And then you choose not to go outside, then you're missing that opportunity of making it part of what your family does.
Yeah, so following the
Okay.
child doesn't mean following the child blindly. You are still the facilitator, you're the lead, you're the parent. So
Yeah.
you want to create a healthy environment that provides them access to all these many, many different things. But then once the child gets out there, if you notice like they're really not really enjoying this, maybe it's too cold or wet, or maybe they are under the weather, this is the time to sort of reassess where you are and reset that bar. Like you made it outside, you stood out there for a few minutes, and then you got too cold, or no one seemed very happy. Okay, you did it. Congratulations, you made it outside. Even this very short excursion is fine. You're
Yes.
following the child, but you're also establishing a rhythm, and that is success.
Yeah. Or sometimes we would make promises to our kids. We're only going to stay there for 5 minutes and then we'll see how we feel. And inevitably, after 5 minutes, our
Yeah, they're
children
not
would
ready
be,
to
no, our
go.
children wouldn't be ready to go. But that way, it seems like a very small commitment.
That's right.
One of the last things I want to share with you today for a tip is to consider bringing something special with you on your outing. Our family, we don't do this every single time,
No.
but sometimes, occasionally, we like to bring a little hot cocoa or some hot tea is something that we do often, like in a mug. Our children now, they everyone has a thermos in our family, and we can all bring our thermoses for our hot tea or hot
Yep.
coffee or whatever we like to drink and bring. But something that really works for a lot of families, and it did ours too, is to purchase a big thermos that can hold a lot of hot tea or hot cocoa or whatever, and then have your children just bring along a bunch of little mugs. You can get little camping mugs that squish down to be
Yep.
really easily portable, or you can just bring some family mugs. If your car is really easily accessible, you can just stick it back in the car when you're done. But that way, we would be outside, it would be super cold or rainy or uncomfortable. We'd have our little gloves on, and then I would say, oh, we've played for a while. You guys getting kind of cold. Was it time for our hot cocoa or our hot tea or whatever? And usually they are excited by that idea. So there's something to, like, you don't have to pack a whole picnic for your children, but just like bringing something a little bit special that can really help.
We would do that.
Be a little motivating and fun.
When the kids were younger and we were trying to, help them build stamina to take longer hikes, we would bring special treats.
Yeah.
And I remember sometimes we'd play a game like, once we cross, the next time we cross a footbridge, you can have a gummy bear or something.
And I will say that's not a very Montessori.
I know you're going to say that because it feels like a reward, but it was so much fun.
It was fun. Yeah. And I think, because it wasn't linked to, you're not going to get the gummy bear if you don't get up there. It was just like, okay, we're going to kind of space it out. So we would do it with all kinds of things like peanuts.
It could be grapes or peanuts or gummy bears or whatever. Or it was just fun.
Yeah,
and
it was fun.
You're right. I know it's not particularly Montessori, but it's a real story. So I like to share those to say, like, nobody's perfect. Try it. Have fun with your kids. Why not? We also would play lots of games. So we would play 20 questions or build a story. And those also became really fun, motivating things to do on those hikes. So it wasn't necessarily bringing something special like some hot cocoa or a bag of treats. It was maybe in this case playing a fun game or a special game on the way. And it had the same effect. At the bottom line is have fun.
Yeah.
Make it a fun thing to do, and you'll be rewarded.
So if you find that the idea of going outside every day feels kind of like feels hard right now, I would suggest making yourself a little commitment, as in like, we're going to go outside for 5 minutes a day.
Yeah.
Just like 5 minutes. Okay. Just about everybody can do that. Even if you're just standing outside the front of your house or, going out to your balcony, just like being outside for 5 minutes every single day, and being able to like check that off, it's going to help you to get into the habit of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as you'll learn next week when you join us, there's ways you can also bring some of the nature inside.
Yes.
That can make it a little bit fun too.
Yep. So we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you so much for Jesus sharing that really beautiful little insight to your family. And thank you to everyone for showing up. If you have questions for us, you can always go to our website, childoftheredwoods.com.
Yeah, if you find Jesus' story inspiring and you're like, I want the Montessori lifestyle for myself, we have all kinds of resources, free and other programs that you can join at childoftheredwoods.com. Love to see you over there. If you have questions or feedback for us about this or anything else, you can get us at hello@childoftheredwoods, or you can even just leave a comment here on this video. We love hearing and interacting with folks.
Yes. All right. We will be back next Tuesday, friends, at 1:00. You can always pop in on YouTube and join us. If you're on our email list, I also always send a little reminder about an hour, 30 minutes, somewhere around there beforehand.
That's right. Next week, it's plants. Back to the essentials. We're doing plants. Plant yourself in front of YouTube.
You cannot have enough plants.
You can't have enough.
All right.
See you then.
Everyone.